van, sportbiketractor.com, and today we're going to install the Hotbodies tag bracket and rear turn signal kit on our 2015 Yamaha YZF-R1 STG project bike. 3 pieces, okay, all LED pieces here. We've got a little LED plate light, it's going to keep you legal. We've got LED turn signals. This is going to eliminate, we've already got it taken off, the entire rear fender with the stock signals. Really give it more of that super bike look. Like I said, I've already got it prepped, right, to go ahead and do the install. We'll give you an idea of what the parts are going to look like when they're on the bike. Okay. That ABS tag bracket fits up there nicely, fills the gaps, right? So it's going to be a good clean install there. All you're going to see is the bottom of the fasteners, okay? Now for the turn signals, pretty creative idea that they had here. What this does is this fastener here comes out. You're able to, there's a little gap in the bodywork, and I'll show you where that's at. And you're able to thread the wiring harness for the LED up in there. And then this is going to go around your passenger peg. It fits a lot more flush. I've got the wiring harness in the way, but end of the day, you're going to end up with a flush turn signal, clear lens, amber LEDs, right there on both sides with your tag. So this is going to be very, very sleek looking when it's done. As I go through the process, right, for all your connections, what I like to do is I like to solder them. It's going to come with Scotch locks. I'm not a big Scotch lock user, right? They do work well for many applications. For this application, they'd work well. Just soldering is permanent, okay? So that's how I'm going to do it. If you want to use the Scotch locks, that's up to you. Okay, we've got the motorcycle completely disassembled. One of the first things that I need to do is identify power and ground, okay? For the LED stuff, you want to run the power to the power side, the ground to the ground side. Got our stock turn signals here. Remember, these are on a Graves Fender Eliminator right now, okay? Just to verify colors, right? The white, okay? It's green to green, black to black. Odds are the green is going to be the power, right? And then we've got brown here, and that'll be for the left side, and we've got brown to brown, black to black. Okay, so what we need to do now is just verify that the green and the brown are the hot wires. Key on. Let's go ahead and turn on that left turn signal. I have a test light here down on the negative side of the battery. And let's find that brown wire. Yep, the brown one is hot. Let's go ahead and, while we're at it, look for the plate. Here's the plate harness. We've got blue with a red tracer and black. Odds are the blue is the hot. Yep, I was right. And let's cancel that out. Turn on the right signal. And let's see if the green is the one. Totally. So, pretty easy, very basic 12-volt system. Looking at these stock turn signal harnesses, okay, and I think this is going to be a pretty important point. Looking at this, you know, without doing any research or using an ohm meter, I'm going to guess that this could be a resistor they have up in here, wired in for the stock LED turn signals, right? So you have a proper load and the flasher trips. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the harness, right, downstream, okay, of this. So we retain all this. I believe that needs to be there. We could do a little more research, but we're just going to go ahead and go with my instinct there. So I'm going to cut this, prep it, and then begin to get it ready for solder. Okay, I'm going to run you through one of the solder connections. Remember, we landed on the brown wire is going to be for the left side. Brown is power. On the hot body signal, red is power, and the black is going to be ground. So we're going to go brown to red, black to black. Got some shrink tubing here. All right, we're going to go ahead and slide that over like so beforehand. Wire strippers, I'll strip a little bit away here so we're able to solder these together. Many different types of soldering irons and wire strippers are available, right? Any auto parts store is going to have this stuff. And at the end of the day, if you don't have these tools, they're good tools to have, so it'd be money well spent. You will use it again in the future. Like I said, you want to use Scotch locks? No problem, you can do that. Personally, I prefer to solder my connections. When you solder, the biggest thing is you got to get the wire hot, okay? That's the key to getting it to bond properly. So I'm going to get into position here. Give it some time to heat up. And you can see when it gets hot how the solder flows on there nicely. You can kind of see how it just drew it right in, right? You can see that all the way around. That is a good, solid connection right there. We will do the same for the ground. You prep it like this, you take the time to do the install like I'm doing it right now, you're going to have trouble-free operation for a long time. Because typically when there's an issue with anything electrical and aftermarket, it's going to be at the connections. So that solder flows right in there. Good solid connection there. Now we need to take a minute and make sure that we have it shielded from the power side. Okay, so what we're going to do is take a little bit of electrical tape here and use that to insulate it. You only need to insulate the one side, and then from there I will just go ahead and put over the shrink tubing. I don't need to get too crazy here, just enough to isolate it. Okay. Power side there. And we will go ahead and grab our shrink tubing. Slide that up and over nicely. And a little butane torch here. You can see the shrink tubing. Just kind of tease it a little bit. Okay. That cool off just a little bit. Or the factory harness connector, and then I'm going to use a little bit of tape here and get this all taped up. And when I'm done, this is going to look, at the end of the day, pretty factory. Okay, I've got all of my connections, everything's soldered, it's taped really nice, right? Gives it a good, clean factory look. Remember, you want to use Scotch locks, that's up to you. Now, installation. Back on the motorcycle. I decided the best way to do this was going to be to route this harness, right, up in through here underneath this under tray, so it'll be in between the under tray and the subframe. In order to do that, we just had to remove the two side panels for the tail. Very easy to do. You're talking just a couple of fasteners and a couple of push pins. So to get this rolling, what we're going to do is feed this up in through here like so. And you'll need to push down a little bit on the under tray to create a little larger gap to bring through the connector, as well as this mounting tab. Feed that up and through like so. And we'll have to repeat the process, of course, on the other side. And then come over here and pull it through, and it's going to basically be just like that. You can lift that back up into place. There is already naturally a little gap in there, and at the end of the day this wire is fully protected, right? It has a nice protective shield on it, so you're not going to have any real pressure on it, so you shouldn't have any issues with rub through if you do it that way. Come over to the other side and just simply repeat the process. It's not a bad idea to test all your connections before you run the wires. We actually did. I plugged in both turn signals. I tested them. They both lit up great. I tested my license plate light because I chose to use that. Not every rider's going to want that, but we're using it on this application. That lit up, so I knew that we were going to be good to go once I had everything run and in place. What you don't want to do is get the motorcycle completely assembled and then find out you made a mistake with one of the connections, and it needs to be addressed. Kind of get this in place. All right, that looks good. Got plenty of slack in here, right? You can see that's going to work out brilliantly. Next up, we'll go ahead and mount up the tag bracket. Okay, the holes in the ABS tag bracket, remember this is pretty flexible stuff, right? The holes in there were a little smaller actually than the diameter of the fasteners that I was using on the Graves Fender Eliminator, so I had to thread them in there. The cool part is now they're kind of captured. That's going to make the install probably even a little easier because it's going to hold them in place for me. Run them all up in through the hole, like so. Put that up in place. Make sure you don't get that wire trapped in there. All right, and now we'll grab our stock spacer that's used. Okay. Nylock nuts, and this is hardware. Okay, this was not included with the kit. This is, you're just reusing either the stock stuff, or in the case of this one, we'd already, done some work back here a couple of times. This is actually the third tag bracket, all right, Fender Eliminator that we're putting on this motorcycle. We did a Graves, we did a Yosh, and now we are on to the Hotbodies. This is the first one that really had a alternative turn signal mount, which is kind of cool. Watch me just drop that little nut right there. Okay, a little cut there so I could retrieve my nut that I dropped. Let's see if I can do this without dropping it a second time. We've already mocked this up a little bit previously, and I gotta tell you, I was pretty impressed with what they came up with here. It's a relatively inexpensive kit, which is always nice, but it looks cool and it's very functional. So at the end of the day, Hotbodies did a really good job, and they came up with a design that is different from everything else that we've seen out there in the marketplace, and that's something that I like to see. We're gonna go ahead and snug these up, and then once we're finished with that, we're going to begin reassembling the tail of the motorcycle. All right, we've got all the fasteners tight for the tag bracket. We're going to begin plugging some of this stuff in, routing the harnesses, and then we can focus on reassembling the tail section of the motorcycle. Looks like we're going to have plenty of slack to work with here. So we'll be able to plug these back in that stock mounting point. Thread that up and through there. And you could take it a step further if you choose to, maybe get a little cable tie or something, draw all that stuff together. But as you can see, that is very clean installation, right? And that is one of the keys to having it trouble-free for a long period of time. Now we're going to grab the fasteners and put the tail together. Okay, looking at this a little closer back here, I think what I want to do now is I think I just want to have a little relief inside of this under tray, right, for the wire to dip into. This is covered up, nobody's going to see it, right? And it's a very, very minor. I'm just using the edge of the unibit here. You can see just enough for that wire harness to dip in there. Like that. And that actually made a real difference. Okay, so that allowed that to really slide up in there. So I'd recommend doing that too. Grab the tail section. Anytime you're modifying your motorcycle, right, and you're installing aftermarket parts, being creative is typically going to be a part of it. You know, in a perfect world, yeah, everything would just fly right on there and there'd be no issues. It'd take 3 seconds, but you're modifying your bike from stock, and you need to keep that in mind. And you know, being a little creative and taking a little extra time just is going to render a better result. I'm going to put these in finger tight for now, so we can still manipulate things a little bit. Now back here, okay, this spacer needs to be in between the turn signal housing itself and the tail. Okay, so we need to make sure that we feed that in there like that. Get my T-handle ready. Go ahead and grab the fastener, push it through there, like so. I'm going to come up here, and this is a great way to kind of spot where is it. All right, it's jumping right up in there. And let's get that bad boy started. Got to make sure that you have that spacer in place. All right, so let me wiggle that tail section around a little bit, and that allowed that to really jump into place. Now I'm able to run it up, and you can see right here that it is now flush backside. Get that turn signal into position right where I want it. And if I want to come around here, Tyler, and kind of give them a look, that's what it's going to look like when it's done. I mean, that's a nice flush install. You can go ahead and work on the other side. It's going to be a mirror image. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side that I did on this side. It's no different. So when we come back, we'll have the tail section on the other side, the half tail, and then we'll have the bike down and begin reassembling the top. Okay, lower half of the tail is all done. I come up here, snug up these fasteners. We've got a couple of pieces to put together here. All right, we'll kind of give you an idea what that all takes. And I think we're gonna end up with a really good, clean result. I would have to say, looking at it right now, this is probably one of the best Fender Eliminators that I've seen from Hotbodies over the years. I think they did a great job on this piece. My battery hold down is going to look a little different than yours most likely because it has been modified for the race body work install. If you're installing race body work on your bike, I showed you what we did here to get around the mounting point for the stock tail that we would not be reusing, right? And that made it more difficult to install that race body work. So had a little work around there, a little trim on that stock piece. Drill and tap a couple of holes, and problem solved. Got all these fasteners going here. Get this put back together, and we've got one trim panel and then the seat. All right, we're down to the seats and the license plate. So we are close to having this baby wrapped up so we can get a look at it. All installed on the bike. It's the toughest part of the project to get right to that very end. You know, it's like you just want to get it wrapped up and see it installed on the bike, right? It's always cool to see the progress. That dipped under there. There's a hook up front that grabs that peg, and lift up the corner of the seat. Obviously the same on both sides. And then we're going to be ready for that license plate. All right, last part of the job. Just going to throw on the license plate. Just reusing the same hardware that I actually had on the Graves Fender Eliminator kit. These are some old plastic fasteners that I have laying around. They're black in color. Plus they'll never corrode. That's an added bonus. If you were interested in something like that, I mean, you can pick these up at, pretty much any local hardware that's worth its own salt. Obviously, I will tighten these up later with a screwdriver and a wrench. But that's going to give you an idea of what it looks like. And I got to tell you, that's pretty darn clean right there. License plate light. Right, it's going to keep that illuminated. Some states you have to have that. You're going to ticket if you don't have that. Turn signal. Very visible. Those LEDs are super bright. Go ahead and test the other side. I think this is a great kit. I think Hotbodies did a phenomenal job with it. It was a very creative concept, those turn signals at the end of the day, and even the way they've got the body lines here on that APS tag bracket. They did a great job, and it's super affordable to get all three pieces. If I'm doing this, I would buy all three pieces. You can buy just the tag back bracket or buy just the turn signal separately. But if you have the stock stuff on, I would just go with a full kit. I fully recommend this. I think they did a great job. Take your time putting it on like I did, and you're going to have a good, long-lasting result that looks killer on the bike. This is the Hotbody rear tag bracket and turn signal install on our 2015 Yamaha YZF-R1 STG project.